The sky above New York City turned dark as something massive descended from space. It wasn't a storm or a meteor, but an enormous alien spacecraft. The ship hovered silently, casting a shadow so large it blocked out the sun. People stopped in their tracks, staring upward with wide eyes and open mouths. Cars came to a halt in the streets, and the usual noise of the city fell silent. Everyone waited, unsure if this was the beginning of an attack or the moment humanity had dreamed of contact with extraterrestrial life. Inside a secure government building, Alex Carter sat at a cluttered desk. Papers were scattered everywhere, and multiple computer screens displayed graphs and data. His dark hair was messy, and his tired eyes showed he hadn't slept much. Alex was a geneticist, known for solving puzzles others couldn't. He spent years studying ancient DNA, trying to uncover secrets hidden in the code of life. Across the room, Emma Hayes stood by a window, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. Her blonde hair was tied back, and her green eyes reflected both determination and worry. Emma was a linguist, an expert at decoding languages no one else could understand. Together, they were part of a team assembled to figure out why the aliens had come. Behind them, government officials paced nervously, barking orders and demanding updates. But Alex and Emma ignored them. Their attention was fixed on a screen showing live footage of the alien ship. It was huge, its surface shimmering like liquid metal under the fading sunlight. Strange symbols glowed faintly along its edges, pulsating rhythmically as if alive. Then, without warning, the ship emitted a deep hum that vibrated through the ground. A voice followed, deep and resonant, speaking in a language no one recognized. "We seek answers," the voice said, repeating the phrase in several languages until it reached English. The words echoed across the city, broadcast through some unknown technology. The message was simple, yet it sent a chill through everyone who heard it. What answers could these beings possibly want? And why had they chosen Earth? Alex leaned forward, his fingers tapping nervously on the desk. "This isn't just a random visit," he muttered. "They're looking for something specific." Emma nodded, her gaze still glued to the screen. "But what? And how do we even talk to them?" Before anyone could answer, the ship opened a small portal near its base. A group of figures stepped out onto the ground below. They looked somewhat human, but there was something strange about them. Their limbs were longer than a human's, and their skin seemed almost translucent, glowing faintly in the dim light. They moved gracefully, each step deliberate and measured. At the center of the group stood a taller figure who appeared to be their leader. She, or at least Alex assumed it was female, had intricate patterns etched into her skin that shifted and changed like flowing water. Her large, almond-shaped eyes scanned the surroundings with an intensity that made Alex feel like she could see right through him. A delegation of scientists, diplomats, and military personnel approached cautiously. Alex and Emma joined them, their hearts racing with anticipation. As they drew closer, the leader stepped forward, raising a slender hand in greeting. "I am Zanara," she said, her voice calm but commanding. Her words came out perfectly clear, as though she had been speaking English all her life. "We mean you no harm. We are here to learn." One of the diplomats, a man named Roger, cleared his throat nervously. "Learn what?" he asked, his voice shaky. Zanara tilted her head, studying him with those piercing eyes. "Your origins," she replied. "Your history, how you came to exist." The statement hung in the air, heavy with implications. Alex exchanged a glance with Emma, both of them thinking the same thing. Why would an advanced alien species care about human evolution? And why did Zanara sound so surprised? As the meeting continued, Zanara's questions grew more detailed. She asked about human genetics, the timeline of human development, and anomalies in the fossil record. Each question felt like a piece of a puzzle falling into place, forming a picture Alex wasn't sure he wanted to see. Meanwhile, Emma struggled to keep up with Zanara's rapid-fire speech, jotting down notes and trying to find patterns in the way she structured her sentences. There was something familiar about the rhythm of her words, as if it reminded Emma of ancient texts she'd studied before. By the time the meeting ended, Alex and Emma were exhausted, but brimming with ideas. Back at the lab, they pored over data and recordings, searching for clues. Alex ran simulations on genetic sequences, while Emma analyzed every word Zanara had spoken. Neither of them realized yet just how much their world was about to change. But one thing was certain: the arrival of the Valith wasn't just a moment of first contact. It was the start of a journey that would uncover secrets buried deep within humanity's past. Alex stayed late at the lab that night, his mind racing. He couldn't shake the feeling that Zanara's questions weren't casual. They were probing, almost urgent. Something about the way she spoke suggested she already knew part of the story, but what? He pulled up old DNA samples from archaeological digs around the world. As he sifted through the data, he noticed something unusual. Certain segments of the human genome didn't match natural evolutionary patterns. These segments were too perfect, too precise to have occurred by chance. Someone or something had tampered with human DNA. Emma, meanwhile, sat at her desk with a notebook filled with scribbles. She replayed recordings of Zanara's speech, listening intently to every inflection. The more she listened, the more she realized the language shared similarities with ancient Sumerian and other long-lost tongues. It was as if the Valith had influenced human languages thousands of years ago. But why? And how? The next morning, Alex and Emma met in the lab to share their findings. Alex explained the anomalies he'd discovered in the human genome, pointing out how they seemed designed for traits like aggression and adaptability. Emma added her observations about the linguistic connections, suggesting the Valith might have interacted with early humans in ways no one had imagined. Both agreed they needed to dig deeper, but they also knew they were treading into uncharted territory. Whatever they uncovered could change everything humanity thought it knew about itself. As they worked, the weight of their task settled over them. The Valith's arrival wasn't just a scientific curiosity, it was a challenge. Humanity had always believed it evolved naturally, shaped by millions of years of survival and adaptation. But now, evidence pointed to something far more complex. Someone had engineered humans, and the Valith seemed determined to find out who and why. Outside, the alien ship still loomed over the city, its presence a constant reminder of the mysteries waiting to be unraveled. For Alex and Emma, the real work was just beginning. Alex sat at his desk, staring at the computer screen in front of him. The glow of the monitor lit up his tired face as he scrolled through lines of genetic data. He had been working non-stop since the meeting with Zanara and the Valith delegation. Something about their questions had stuck with him, gnawing at the edges of his mind. They weren't just curious, they seemed to know something. And now, after hours of analyzing ancient DNA samples, Alex was starting to see patterns that didn't make sense. Emma walked into the lab carrying a cup of coffee. She set it down on Alex's desk without saying a word. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep, but she looked determined. "Anything new?" she asked, pulling up a chair beside him. Alex nodded slowly, pointing to a section of the screen. "Look at this," he said. "These segments here they look normal to you?" Emma leaned closer, her brow furrowing as she studied the data. "No," she said after a moment. "They're too perfect, like someone designed them intentionally." Alex nodded again, his jaw tightening. "Exactly. These aren't natural mutations. Someone nor something engineered these parts of our DNA." The two of them sat in silence for a while, letting the implications sink in. If humans had been genetically modified, it meant their evolution wasn't entirely natural. It raised questions about who or what had done it, and why. Emma broke the silence first. "Do you think the Valith know more than they're telling us?" she asked. Alex shrugged. "It's possible, but if they do, they're not saying anything directly. We need to figure it out ourselves." Over the next few days, Alex and Emma dove deeper into their research. Alex focused on the genetic anomalies, running simulations to understand how they might affect human biology. He discovered that the modified segments enhanced traits like strength, endurance, and even aggression. These changes would have given early humans an edge in survival, but they also made them better suited for conflict. It was as if someone had deliberately shaped humanity into a species capable of fighting. Meanwhile, Emma continued to study the Valeth's language. She replayed recordings of Zanara's speech over and over, searching for hidden meanings. One night, while listening to a particular phrase, she noticed something unusual. The rhythm and structure of Zanara's words matched patterns found in ancient myths and legends. Stories from cultures all over the world spoke of gods or celestial beings visiting Earth, teaching human skills like agriculture, writing, and warfare. Could these stories be more than just myths? Could they be memories of an encounter with the Valethor, whoever had engineered humanity? Emma shared her findings with Alex the next morning. What if the Valeth aren't the ones who created us? She suggested. What if they're just trying to figure out who did? Alex frowned, considering the idea. That would explain why they seem so surprised by us, he said. But if they didn't create us, then who did, and why? To answer those questions, they decided to dig deeper into humanity's past. Alex pulled up records of archaeological discoveries from around the world. Buried within the data were clues that didn't fit the standard narrative of human evolution. Artifacts dated thousands of years apart showed sudden leaps in technology and culture, advancements that couldn't be explained by gradual development. In some cases, tools and structures appeared almost overnight, as if introduced by outsiders. Emma cross-referenced these findings with linguistic evidence. She found that many ancient languages contained words and phrases that didn't originate from any known root. Some of these words described concepts like flight, advanced engineering, and even genetic manipulation. It was as if humans had interacted with beings far more advanced than themselves and recorded those interactions in their earliest writings. As the pieces began to come together, Alex and Emma realized they were uncovering something monumental. Humanity's origins weren't as straightforward as everyone had believed. Someone had intervened, shaping humans into what they were today. But the question remained, who? And what was their purpose? One evening, as they worked late in the lab, Alex brought up another troubling thought. If we were engineered for specific traits, does that mean we're being used? He asked. Emma paused, her pen hovering over her notebook. Used for what? She replied. Alex hesitated before answering. War, he said finally. All these enhancements, strength, aggression, adaptability, they're not just for survival. They're for combat. Emma stared at him, her expression unreadable. You think we were created as weapons? She asked quietly. Alex nodded. It makes sense. Why else would someone go through the trouble of modifying our DNA? They wanted us to fight for them, or maybe against someone else. The idea weighed heavily on both of them. If humans were indeed engineered for war, it changed everything. It meant their history, their struggles, their very existence could be tied to someone else's agenda. But whose and why had the creators disappeared, leaving humanity behind? Determined to find answers, Alex and Emma turned their attention back to the Valeth. They reviewed every interaction, every word Zanara had spoken. Slowly, they began to piece together a theory. The Valeth weren't here to conquer or destroy, they were here to investigate. Something about humanity's engineered origins disturbed them, as if it violated some cosmic rule or agreement. Perhaps they feared what humans might become if they fully awakened to their potential. But there was one more clue they couldn't ignore. During the initial meeting, Zanara had mentioned seeding life across galaxies. At the time, Alex and Emma hadn't thought much of it. Now, they wondered if it held the key to understanding humanity's true origins. What if humans weren't the only species engineered by these mysterious creators. What if there were others out there, scattered across the stars? With this new possibility in mind, Alex and Emma prepared to confront Zinara again. They knew they couldn't keep their findings secret forever. Sooner or later, the truth would come out, and when it did, humanity would have to face its engineered legacy head-on. Until then, they would continue searching for answers, hoping to uncover the full story before it was too late. As they left the lab that night, the alien ship still loomed above the city, its glowing surface reflecting the moonlight. For Alex and Emma, it was a reminder of how much they still didn't know, and how much was at stake. Whatever secrets the Valeth carried, they were tied to humanity's past, present, and future. And Alex and Emma were determined to unravel them, no matter the cost. Alex and Emma stood in a dimly lit conference room, surrounded by government officials and military personnel. The air was tense, thick with the weight of what they were about to reveal. For days, they had been piecing together their findings, clues, hidden in ancient DNA, patterns in forgotten languages, and artifacts that defied explanation. Now, it was time to share their theory. Even though they weren't sure how others would react, Emma cleared her throat, gripping the edges of the table, to steady herself. "We've discovered something," she began, her voice soft but firm. "Something that changes everything we thought we knew about humanity." The room fell silent, all eyes turning to her. Alex stepped forward, holding up a tablet displaying strands of DNA. "These segments here," he said, pointing to highlighted sections, "aren't natural. They were engineered, deliberately added to our genetic code." A murmur rippled through the room. One of the officials, a stern-looking man named Colonel Harris, leaned forward. "Engineered? By whom?" he demanded. Alex hesitated before answering. "That's what we're trying to figure out. But based on the evidence, it wasn't random. Whoever did this wanted humans to survive and to fight." Emma nodded, adding, "It's not just the genetics. We've found traces of this in ancient myths and languages too. Stories from different cultures talk about beings from the sky, teaching humans skills like farming, building, and warfare. At first, we thought they were just legends, but now," she trailed off, letting the implications hang in the air. Colonel Harris frowned, his face hardening. "You're saying someone created us to be soldiers?" Alex shrugged. "Not exactly soldiers, but close. Our ancestors were given traits to make them stronger, faster, and more resilient. Traits that would help them thrive in harsh environments and win battles." The room erupted into murmurs again. Some people looked skeptical, while others seemed uneasy, as if the idea was too big to process. One scientist raised his hand cautiously. "If this is true," he said, "then where are these creators now? Why would they leave us behind?" Alex and Emma exchanged a glance. That was the question they'd been asking themselves. "We don't know yet," Emma admitted. "But the Valeth might. Their leader, Zinara, mentioned seeding life across galaxies. Maybe they know who or what did this to us." Colonel Harris stood abruptly, pacing the length of the room. "This is dangerous territory," he said sharply. "If word gets out that humans were engineered for war, it could cause panic. Or, worse, someone could try to weaponize this information." Emma shook her head. "Keeping it secret won't help. If we want to understand who we are, we need to dig deeper, and that means talking to the Valeth." The decision was made quickly. Alex and Emma would arrange another meeting with Zinara and her delegation. This time, they planned to confront the aliens directly, armed with their findings and a list of questions. As they prepared, Alex couldn't shake the feeling that they were stepping into uncharted waters. The Valeth had already shown they were hiding something, but what? The next day, Alex and Emma arrived at the designated meeting, Sita secure facility near the alien ship. The Valeth delegation waited for them, their glowing forms standing motionless against the backdrop of the massive spacecraft. Zinara stepped forward, her expression unreadable. "You wished to speak with us," she said, her voice calm but tinged with curiosity. Emma nodded, clutching a folder filled with notes. Yes, we've uncovered evidence that humans were genetically modified, engineered for specific traits. We believe your people might know who did this. Sinara's eyes narrowed slightly, and for a moment, she was silent. Then she spoke. Your suspicions are correct, she admitted. Humans were not created naturally. You were designed by the Krylos. The Krylos, Alex repeated, his voice barely above a whisper. Sinara nodded. They were a powerful species, rivals of the Valith. Long ago, we waged a great war against them, a conflict that spanned stars and centuries. During the war, the Krylos sought to create weapons unlike any other. They experimented with life, tampering with the biology of lesser species to serve their purposes. Humans were one such creation. Emma felt a chill run down her spine. What happened to them? She asked. Why aren't they here now? Sinara's gaze grew distant, as if recalling a painful memory. The Krylos vanished. Their empire collapsed under the strain of the war, and their creations were abandoned. We assumed most of their experiments perished without guidance. It seems we were wrong. For a long moment, no one spoke. The weight of Zinara's words settled over the group like a heavy blanket. Alex finally broke the silence. So, humans were created as weapons. What does that mean for us now? Zinara tilted her head, studying him carefully. That depends on you. Your creators intended you to be tools of destruction. But over time, you have developed qualities they did not foresee, qualities like creativity, compassion, and cooperation. These traits may yet save you from your violent origins. Emma swallowed hard, processing the alien's words. And you? She asked. Why are you here? Are you afraid we'll become like the Krylos? Zinara hesitated before answering. We came because we detected signs of awakening within your species. Dormant abilities buried in your DNA are beginning to surface. If left unchecked, they could lead to chaos or worse, reignite old conflicts. We must decide whether to intervene or allow you to chart your own course. Alex clenched his fists, frustration bubbling inside him. So, you're here to judge us? To decide if we're worth saving? No, Zinara replied firmly. We are here to learn, to understand how a species born of war can choose peace. The outcome rests in your hands. As the meeting ended, Alex and Emma walked back to their vehicle in silence. The enormity of what they had learned pressed down on them. Humanity's history was not its own. It belonged to a race of beings who had used humans as pawns in a galactic war. Yet, despite their violent origins, humans had grown beyond their programming. They had built civilizations, created art, and dreamed of a better future. But the road ahead wouldn't be easy. The knowledge they carried was both a burden and a gift. It revealed the truth of humanity's past, but also offered a chance to shape its future. As they drove away, the alien ship loomed large in the rearview mirror, a reminder of the choices waiting to be made. Back at the lab, Alex and Emma sat side by side, staring at the wall. Neither of them spoke for a long time. Finally, Emma broke the silence. Do you think we can do it? She asked softly. Can we rise above what we were made to be? Alex sighed, running a hand through his hair. I don't know, but if anyone can, it's us. We've always found a way to adapt to survive. Maybe this is just another challenge we're meant to overcome. Emma smiled faintly, though her eyes still held doubt. Let's hope so, she said, because if we don't, I'm not sure what happens next. Outside, the city buzzed with life, unaware of the secrets unfolding in the shadows. For Alex and Emma, the work was far from over. They had uncovered humanity's engineered legacy, but now they had to decide what to do with it. The revelation from Zinara weighed heavily on Alex and Emma as they returned to the lab. The truth about humanity's origins was staggering. but it also raised more questions than it answered. If humans were engineered by the Krylos for war, what had happened to their creators? And why had the Valith come now, after thousands of years of silence? Alex felt a mix of anger and determination bubbling inside him. He couldn't shake the feeling that the Valith weren't telling them everything. Emma, meanwhile, was lost in thought. She replayed Sonara's words over and over in her mind. A species born of war, she muttered under her breath. It sounded like a curse, yet humanity had somehow managed to rise above its violent programming at least, in part. But how long would that last? What if the dormant abilities, buried in human DNA, began to awaken en masse? Would people embrace their newfound powers or use them to destroy one another? As they worked late into the night, Alex decided to focus on the genetic anomalies they'd discovered. He set up a series of tests to see if these traits could be activated deliberately. Using samples from volunteers, he introduced specific stimuli chemicals, electrical pulses, even sound frequencies to trigger changes at the cellular level. At first, there was no noticeable effect. But then, something extraordinary happened. One volunteer, a young man named Daniel, began showing signs of heightened reflexes. His reaction times improved dramatically, and he reported feeling sharper, more alert. Another volunteer, a woman named Lisa, exhibited increased physical strength, lifting weights far beyond her usual capacity. Both subjects described strange sensations, a tingling in their muscles, flashes of clarity in their thoughts, as if parts of their bodies and minds were waking up for the first time. Emma watched the experiments with a mixture of fascination and unease. "This is incredible," she said, scribbling notes furiously, "but also terrifying. If this spreads, we could see chaos on a global scale." Alex nodded grimly. That's exactly what the Valith are worried about. They didn't come here just to observe. They came to decide whether to stop this from happening. As word of the experiments leaked, the government stepped in. Military officials arrived at the lab, demanding access to the research. Colonel Harris led the delegation, his face stern and unyielding. "We need to understand the full potential of these enhancements," he said. "If they can make soldiers stronger and faster, we have a duty to explore that." Alex bristled at the idea. "This isn't about making better weapons," he snapped. "It's about understanding who we are, and figuring out how to control these abilities before they spiral out of hand." Harris narrowed his eyes. "Control, or suppress? You're playing with forces you don't fully comprehend, Dr. Carter. We can't afford to take chances." Emma tried to mediate, stepping between them. "There's another way," she said firmly. "Instead of focusing on the destructive side, let's look at the positive aspects. These abilities aren't inherently bad, they're tools. How we choose to use them is what matters." Despite their protests, the military took control of the project, relocating it to a secure facility. Alex and Emma were allowed to continue their work, but under strict supervision. The shift made them uneasy. They knew the government's interest wasn't purely scientific, it was strategic. If humanity's latent powers could be harnessed, someone would try to weaponize them, and once that genie was out of the bottle, there would be no putting it back. Meanwhile, public awareness of the situation grew. News outlets picked up fragments of the story, piecing together rumors of alien contact and genetic experiments. People reacted in different ways. Some saw the revelations as proof of divine intervention, believing humanity had been created with a purpose. Others viewed it as evidence of enslavement by long-dead masters, sparking outrage and fear. Protests erupted in cities around the world, with crowds chanting slogans like, "No to alien control," and "We are not weapons," amid the chaos. Alex and Emma struggled to stay focused. They knew the stakes were higher than ever. If humanity's engineered legacy became common knowledge, it could tear society apart. Yet keeping it secret felt wrong too. People deserved to know the truth even if it was painful. Zinora visited them again, sensing the growing tension. This time, she brought others from the Valeth delegation, including a scientist named Valen, who specialized in biology. Together, they reviewed the data Alex and Emma had collected. Valen confirmed their findings, adding new insights based on the Valeth's advanced understanding of genetics. Your species is unique, he explained. The Krylos designed you for conflict, but they underestimated your capacity for growth. Even without guidance, you developed traits they never intended, traits that give you hope. Hope was a small comfort, though, when faced with the reality of what might come next. Zinara revealed that the Valeth had encountered other species engineered by the Krylos, none of which had survived their awakening. They destroyed themselves, she said, quietly. Their violent instincts overwhelmed them. We fear humanity may follow the same path unless you find balance. Emma clenched her fists, frustration boiling over. You keep saying that, she said sharply. Find balance. But how? What does that even mean? Zinara met her gaze calmly. It means embracing both sides of your nature, the warrior and the creator. Your species excels at adaptation. Use that skill to channel your abilities toward progress, not destruction. Alex mulled over her words, trying to imagine what such a future might look like. Could humanity truly transcend its violent origins? Or was it doomed to repeat the mistakes of its creators? He glanced at Emma, seeing the same uncertainty reflected in her eyes. They had uncovered the truth, but the hardest part was still ahead. Back at the lab, Alex and Emma continued their work, pushing boundaries while grappling with ethical dilemmas. Each breakthrough brought them closer to unlocking humanity's full potential, but also closer to unleashing forces they couldn't control. Volunteers reported vivid dreams, sudden bursts of emotion, and even glimpses of telepathic connections with others. It was as if the dormant parts of their DNA were not just physical, but psychological, reshaping how they perceived the world. Colonel Harris monitored their progress closely, his patience wearing thin. When will we see results? He demanded during one meeting. We need tangible outcomes, something we can use. Alex shot him a glare. This isn't about quick fixes or shortcuts. It's about understanding the implications of what we're doing. Rushing this process could have catastrophic consequences. Harris leaned forward, his voice low and threatening. Let me remind you, Dr. Carter, that humanity's survival may depend on what we learn here. If you won't cooperate, we'll find someone who will. The threat hung in the air, heavy and suffocating. Alex and Emma exchanged a glance, silently agreeing not to back down. They couldn't let fear dictate their actions, not when so much was at stake. That night, as they left the lab, the alien ship loomed overhead, its glowing surface casting an eerie light across the city. For Alex and Emma, it symbolized both danger and opportunity. The Valeth had come seeking answers, but they had also forced humanity to confront uncomfortable truths about itself. Whether those truths would lead to salvation or ruin remained to be seen. As they walked through the quiet streets, Emma broke the silence. Do you think we can do it? She asked softly. Can we rise above this? Alex sighed, his shoulders slumping slightly. I don't know, he admitted. But I do know one thing. We have to try. If we don't, who will? Emma nodded, resolve hardening in her expression. Then let's get to work.